She stood in the shadows, holding a champagne glass that trembled in her hand, while her husband stood on stage, arm around another woman, calling her his wife. Not a rumor, not a mistake, a public announcement, in front of hundreds of the most powerful people in New York. Her name is Beatrice Hayes. 3 years of marriage, 3 years of silence, 3 years of believing she was simply too busy to notice the signs, and in less than 10 minutes, everything she thought she knew was dismantled in front of a live camera. But here's what Alexander Vance didn't count on. Beatrice wasn't just a wife, she was her father's daughter. And her father? Franklin Hayes, the man who built an empire from nothing and never, not once, trusted anyone blindly, not even his own son-in-law. So when Beatrice stepped out of those shadows and into the spotlight, heels sharp on marble, voice calm as a surgeon, she didn't come to cry. She came to burn it all down. What happens when the woman you publicly humiliate turns out to be the one person who holds the key to your entire empire? Stay with me, because this story doesn't just end with revenge. It ends with something far more powerful, a woman choosing herself, her worth, and her future, even when the world was watching her fall. If this story moved you, hit that like button and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that being underestimated is sometimes the greatest advantage you'll ever have. And if you're new here, subscribe, because we tell stories that actually mean something. This content was manually researched, constructed, and edited by our team to bring you meaningful stories and real lessons.
My husband's voice cut through the ballroom, sharp and cold over the speakers. "I'd like to introduce someone," he announced. "The woman beside me, Lucy Herrera, is my wife." The spotlights zeroed in on them. He wrapped his arm around her waist, a perfect portrait of a happy couple. From the shadows, I watched, my champagne flute trembling. A confused whisper spread through the crowd. "I'm Beatrice Hayes. 10 minutes ago, I was Mrs. Alexander Vance." "Mrs. Hayes," Alex's voice was like ice, "knew our marriage was just a business contract." A lie. So shameless. My nails bit into my skin, the pain keeping me grounded as every eye in the room turned to me. I felt their pity, their morbid curiosity. Lucy, nestled in his arms, gave a tiny, triumphant smirk. 3 months ago, she was just his assistant. Now she stood in my place. "We filed for a partnership 6 months ago," he said. He spoke with the same detachment he used for quarterly earnings. "We're sharing this now because Lucy is 3 months pregnant." A smattering of applause grew, because in this world, that's what you do. With enough power, they'd clap for anything. My purse buzzed. My father, I knew it. This whole humiliation was being streamed live, a sick drama playing out for the world and my family to see. I took a breath and walked into the light, my heels clicking on the marble. The spotlight found me in the Valentino gown I'd chosen for tonight's celebration of his company's success. The irony was sickening. "Mr. Vance," my voice was steady through my mic, "is all of that true?" The room went dead silent. He frowned, surprised. He expected the wife who always kept quiet to protect our image. "Bea, let's discuss this later." A warning laced his calm tone. "Why later?" I smiled. "You made this public. It seems only fair I get a word in." Lucy, the master of playing the victim, nervously tugged his arm. Suddenly it all made sense. The accidental coffee on my dress, the casual mentions of Alex missing my birthday, her showing up at our anniversary dinner. I had made excuses for him, like a fool. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I pulled it out. Dad, of course. Comments flashed on the live feed. The wife fights back. "Poor Beatrice. Apex CEO is savage. I saw it all." I answered and hit speaker. "Beatrice." My father's voice filled the silent room. "Are you watching this?" A camera zoomed in on my phone, on his name. Everyone knew Franklin Hayes ran one of the biggest empires in the country. "I'm here in person, Dad," I said, my eyes locked on Alex. A beat of silence. Then my father's voice, cold as steel, cut through. "Then announce the divorce, daughter, and let his company be bankrupt by morning." A gasp swept the room. Every camera swung to Alex. His face went white. Lucy's jaw dropped. The call ended, but the damage was done. He rushed toward me, hissing, "B, this is a misunderstanding." I stepped back. "Explain what? How you slept with both of us? Or used my family's money to plan our downfall?" Camera flashes exploded around us. This was better than a movie. Tomorrow's headlines were writing themselves. He lunged for my mic. I moved away. "Mr. Vance, you wanted a public forum. You've got one." I faced the guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, we seem to have a small marital issue." A few nervous chuckles broke the silence. Until tonight, I was unaware my husband had taken a new wife. My voice shook, but I held it together. And I certainly never knew I'd been cast as the other woman in my own marriage. The crowd murmured. Alex looked sick. "Beatrice, stop this," he pleaded. "This isn't good for anyone." "Now you're worried?" I sneered. "You should have thought of that before you humiliated me tonight." I walked to the tech booth and motioned to the technician. The screen behind him changed from his company's logo to bank records. "These are my family's investments into Apex," I said calmly. $100 million, with a contract that lets us pull every cent for bad behavior. Alex was stunned. "How?" I laughed. "Because I wasn't just your wife. I was the auditor my father assigned to your company. You forgot he doesn't trust anyone." The room exploded with noise and flashing cameras. This was bigger than gossip. Lucy ran to me, sobbing. "It's my fault, Mrs. Hayes. We're in love." I watched her pathetic act. "Miss Herrera, you're pregnant with his child, correct?" I asked coldly. She nodded, clutching her stomach. "Congratulations," I smiled. "Then you know how a parent feels when someone hurts their child, and my father just heard everything." Before I finished, phones began ringing all over the room. "They've halted trading. The SEC is launching an audit. The bank is calling in the loan." Panic spread. Alex's phone rang. His face went ghostly white. My father kept his promises. The end had already begun. I slowly slid the 5-carat pink diamond from my finger. Our eternal love. What a joke. I set it on the stage, the soft clink echoing. "Alexander Vance," I said, "we are done." As I walked away, he seethed. "You'll regret this, Beatrice." Without turning, I called back. "My only regret is ever loving a lowlife like you." The cool night air felt like a release as I left the ballroom. Reporters swarmed, but bodyguards materialized and cleared a path. A black Mercedes Maybach slid to the curb. My father's chief of staff, George, opened the door. "Miss Hayes, your father is waiting." The second the door closed, I fell apart, sobbing. 3 years. It was all a lie. George silently passed me a tissue box. "The chairman wanted me to say he was very proud of you tonight." I wiped my eyes and breathed. "It's true," George's voice was steady. "The short sellers have Apex. 3 banks just pulled their funding, and the SEC is officially investigating." My father's message was simple. This was only the start. Watching the city lights streak by, I thought of Alex when I first met him. Just another ambitious kid. His eyes burned with this relentless ambition. He was going to build an empire, he said. And I fell for it, telling him I believed. I even talked my father into funding Apex. He never would have gone public without us. In return, he destroyed me in front of the world. My phone lit up. It was Alex, a text. "B, please. We need to talk. This is a huge misunderstanding. I love you." Lucy meant nothing. I didn't reply, just blocked the number. Then a message from an unknown number. "You got your win, but don't think this is over. I don't give up. You and your dad will pay for this." A threat. I scoffed. Did he really think he could still scare me now? The car swept onto our Greenwich property. Every light in the main house was on, and my father was there, waiting on the porch, something he never does. The second I was out of the car, my father's arms were open. I just fell into them and sobbed, feeling like a wounded child. "Shh, it's okay. It's over now," he whispered, stroking my hair. "No one will ever hurt my daughter again." He led me inside and poured me hot tea. "Beatrice, There's something else you need to know." His expression sobered, and the calm I'd just found vanished. "Alex didn't just betray our marriage. We suspect he's been leaking corporate secrets," my father said softly. "It's very likely he's behind those major contracts we've lost." I stared at him, stunned. "What?" "I know it's a shock, but the proof is there." My father signaled to George, who brought a file. "It's why I was able to hit apex so hard and so fast. I was already prepared." I opened it to find financial trails and pictures of Alex in secret meetings with our rival's CEO. The first date was over a year ago. This betrayal wasn't new. It had been happening long before I knew, maybe from day one. "Why?" I whispered, my heart completely shattered. "Why would he do this?" My father was quiet for a beat. "Some people, you just can't change, no matter how much you give them. Right now, it's not about why. It's about damage control and making the traitor pay." He looked right at me. "Beatrice, are you with me?" I dug my nails into my palms. The sharp sting focused me, fueled me. "I'm ready, Dad." By morning, Apex Innovations had dropped 40%, losing billions in value. In one night, my 3-year marriage to Alexander Vance was over. I was no longer a scorned wife. I was a woman bent on justice, and this was just the start. Dawn broke, but its light brought no warmth. The financial news on my tablet was grim. Apex Innovations market cap slashed by 40% after shock attack. Founders affair scandal implodes company. The photos said it all. Alex with his arms around Lucy, next to a shot of my back as I walked away from the wreckage. The two pictures together were a cruel joke. "Miss Hayes, the chairman will see you in the study," the butler murmured. I sipped my coffee. Its bitterness was nothing compared to the ache inside me. Pushing back my chair, I glimpsed the faint indentation on my finger, the only thing left of 3 years. In the study, my father stood by the window on the phone. His tone was calm but lethal. "Yes, pull it all. The contract gives us the right. There's no grace period." George nodded at me as I came in, and on the huge central screen, the Apex stock chart was just a cliff dive. Dad ended his call. "Get any sleep?" I just shook my head. I'd spent the night replaying every lie, every moment of our 3-year sham. Everything I thought was love was just an elaborate con. "Alex came by last night," he said, pulling up the security feed. He'd driven right up to the gate, but security sent him away. The video showed him looking frantic outside our gate, all that swagger from last night gone. Pathetic. I wondered if he'd thought of this when he tore me apart in public. "Was he here to apologize?" I asked. Dad opened another file. "More than that. He sent a settlement proposal." A draft agreement appeared. Alex was offering a fraction of our investment back if we'd call off the attack on Apex. It was a lot of money, but it was nothing compared to what we'd actually poured into his company. Where would he even get that kind of cash? I wondered aloud. Apex is supposed to be expanding. Their cash flow is tight. My father gave a dry smile. "That's the point. He's either been skimming assets or he's stalling for time." George added, "Mr. Vance opened offshore accounts in the last 6 months with complex transfers. After your order last night, sir, we had most of them frozen, but a large amount is already gone." I leaned in to look at the transfer diagram. An account labeled VR stood out. The money went there first, then scattered. "VR," I said quietly. "His contact was named Victor Reed," my father confirmed. "But the account isn't under that name. It belongs to Julian Hayes, a U.S. citizen whose background is almost too perfect." "Too clean is a red flag," I said. "Can we connect him to Alex?" "We're working on it," George said. "All we know is that this Julian has done business with Apex. He's listed as the CEO of some Silicon Valley tech firm." While they spoke, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Calls and texts from concerned friends, fake sympathizers and reporters. One name jumped out at me, a text from Laura Bennett. "B, I just saw the news. Are you okay? Call me anytime if you need someone." Laura was my best friend from college. We drifted apart, but she was still one of the good ones. "I'm holding a press conference," I announced. My father looked surprised. "Are you sure you're ready?" "Hiding is the worst thing I could do," I said, my voice firm. "Better they hear it from me. Besides, I have an idea. A press conference is the perfect place to spring a trap." I managed a small, cold smile. Investors always want to see a return, don't they? 2 hours later, the Hayes Corporation press room was a madhouse. I wore a crisp white pantsuit, powerful but not overdone. My makeup was flawless, hiding the exhaustion. I was in control. "Thank you for coming," I said into the wall of microphones, my voice even. "I know you all have questions. I'll answer what I can, but some things must remain private for now." Hands flew up and the questions started like gunfire. "Miss Hayes, did you know about the announcement? Is Hayes Corp behind the stock crash? Are you filing for divorce?" I held up a hand to quiet them. One at a time. First, I knew nothing about Mr. Vance's plans. I was as blindsided and humiliated as anyone. A ripple of murmurs went through the crowd. The camera flashes felt like explosions. Second, the market moves on its own. As a major investor, the Hayes Corporation will always act to protect its own interests. I chose my words with surgical precision. And yes, as Mr. Vance himself admitted to a breach, we are exercising our contractual rights. Just then, I saw a familiar face slip in the back. It was Laura. She gave me a tiny, encouraging nod. I took a breath and continued. "As for my marriage..." I let the words hang in the air, lowering my eyes. I forced myself to look up, blinking back the blur of tears. I hated that it had come to this. 3 years I'd poured everything into his career, and this was my reward. A carefully timed catch in my voice made the room fall silent. I could feel a wave of pity shift in my favor. This pain won't break me. I'll focus on Hayes Corporation and my own future. I managed a tight smile for the cameras. A journalist yelled, "Thank you, Miss Hayes. A rumor says your marriage was just business. Is that true?" The question was a dagger. I knew that reporter. He dug up dirt for a living and was cozy with Apex Innovations. "My marriage started with love," I said, my voice firm, at least for me. As for my husband... I trailed off. He shot back, then explained why he and Miss Herrera filed for a domestic partnership 6 months ago. "Wasn't your marriage already over, and you were just faking it for the company? The attack was meant to pin the blame on me." As I opened my mouth to answer, my phone buzzed. A text from George. Movement in the VR account. A huge sum is being wired to a U.S. company. The recipient is Nexus Tech. Sole administrator, Lucy Herrera. I stared right at the reporter. "What an interesting question. Let me ask you one. Did you know Miss Herrera, the pregnant other woman, just started a company with $50 million in capital?" A murmur went through the crowd. The reporter was stunned, thrown by my counter. And, I added, the company was incorporated exactly 3 months ago, the same day she claims she got pregnant. Isn't that an amazing coincidence? Reporters' keyboards clattered. This was an exclusive no one saw coming. "Miss Hayes, are you saying she faked the pregnancy?" another reporter asked. "I haven't claimed a thing," I smiled. "I'm just stating facts. It's hard to tell business from love these days. Some people fake love for money. Others might fake a pregnancy. It happens." The room exploded. I glanced at Laura in the back, who gave me a subtle thumbs up. The second I got to the break room, she rushed in. "B, that was incredible," she said, hugging me. "I got it all on tape. That reporter was bought and paid for. His questions were pure Apex propaganda." "I know," I sighed. "Laura, I need you." She used to be a top investigative journalist, now an editor. Her skills were legendary. "Anything," she said instantly. "A monster like that deserves to be exposed." I lowered my voice. "I think Alex didn't just cheat on me. He stole company secrets from Hayes Corporation. I bet he's behind those major contracts we just lost." Laura's jaw dropped. "He's insane. That's a felony." "I need proof," I said, grabbing her hand. But if my team investigates, he'll know. You're a journalist. You have the perfect cover story. Laura got it immediately. I'll get inside Apex, pitch a feature story, especially on that Lucy Herrera. If the pregnancy is a lie, her medical records will have holes. Just then, George knocked. Miss Hayes, we have a situation. He showed me his tablet. It was a live security feed. Alexander Vance was in our lobby trying to force his way upstairs while security blocked him. Beatrice, please, it's a misunderstanding. On the screen, Alex looked frantic, nothing like his usual icy self. Should we let him come up? George asked. I looked at Laura. She quietly turned on her recorder. Put him in the small conference room. Tell him I'll give him 5 minutes. In the room, I sat at the head of the table. Laura was off to the side, pretending to sort files. The door flew open and Alex stormed in, his suit a mess, with dark circles under his eyes. He obviously hadn't slept. Beatrice, we have to talk, he pleaded, ignoring Laura completely. Mr. Vance, what could we possibly have left to discuss? I asked, my voice like ice. Last night? Lucy threatened me. She said she'd get an abortion if I didn't go public. So you chose to publicly destroy me. I raised an eyebrow. What a tragic love story. Alex finally noticed Laura, suspicion clouding his face. Who is this? My lawyer, I lied smoothly. She's here for the divorce. Alex took a breath, trying to regain control. B, I know you're hurt, but let's be smart about this. If Hayes pulls its funding, Apex collapses. That hurts you too. Our companies are tied together. Is that a threat? I laughed. Mr. Vance, you still don't get it. You are in no position to make demands. He clenched his jaw. If you push for this divorce, dividing the assets won't go your way. You can't touch Apex's growth. Oh, really? I cut in. What about the corporate secrets you stole from my family's company? Should we discuss that? Alex's face went white. Trade secrets. I have no idea what you're talking about. His panicked denial told me everything. I leaned in, my voice low. Nexus Tech, Julian Hayes. Do either of those names mean anything to you? Alex's eyes widened in fear. He was trying to look calm, but sweat beaded on his forehead. I don't know anything about that, B. Someone's trying to tear us apart. You can't listen to them. Right then, my phone rang. It was my father. I put him on speaker. Beatrice. The SEC is opening a formal investigation into Apex Innovations. The FBI's white-collar division is involved too. Tell your ex-husband to get a very good lawyer. Every word echoed in the silence. Alex turned gray and stumbled back. You can't. Your 5 minutes are up, Mr. Vance, I said, standing. My lawyer will contact yours. Please leave. After security took him away, Laura showed me her recorder. I got it all. His reaction to Nexus and Julian is damning. George burst in. Miss Hayes, breaking news. Nexus Tech, Lucy Herrera's company, is bidding on the city's smart grid project. Their proposal is almost a carbon copy of the one stolen from us. It was all true. Alex hadn't just broken my heart. He'd stolen my family's legacy for his mistress. A cold rage settled over me. Laura, can you find definitive proof Lucy isn't pregnant? Leave it to me, she said. A woman like her always has secrets. George, schedule a meeting with every department head for 1 hour from now. If Apex swallowed what belongs to us, we'll make them choke on it. I stood at the window, staring at the city. The giant Apex Innovations logo glowed from a skyscraper. I used to be so proud of that building, my husband's empire. Now I knew it was built on lies. An empire like that can fall overnight. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You think this is over? The game is just starting. Everyone has a weak spot. I squeezed the phone, my knuckles white. A weak spot. Love and trust used to be mine. Now they were my armor. That message from Alex was like a snake coiling in the shadows. Everyone has a weak spot. I read it again. Was it just a threat, or was he already making a move? For 3 years, I thought I knew him. Now he was a stranger. "Miss Hayes, the board is ready for you." George's voice broke my trance. I deleted the text and turned. "Any word from the FBI? The lead agent just called. They need more evidence on the stolen documents." George handed me a file. "Here's the analysis you wanted on Apex's shareholder structure." I headed to the boardroom, flipping through the pages. The charts and numbers laid out a carefully planned betrayal. "For the last 6 months, Vance used shell companies to water down our stake," George explained. "He was also secretly buying shares on the open market, boosting his personal control by 8% more than we knew. So even if we divest, he thinks he can keep control of Apex." I finished. George nodded grimly. "And we still haven't identified where the money for those purchases came from." Inside the boardroom, my executive team was waiting. The heads of legal, finance, and strategy all looked grim. The shock of last night was a cold weight in the room, the coming fight palpable in the silence. "Let's begin," I said, my voice steady as I claimed my seat. "Our only priority is to contain the damage to Hayes Corp from this Apex mess. We also need to get the police everything they need." Our CFO spoke first. "We've cut off Apex's credit, but of the $100 million invested, $60 million is stock. $40 million is in bonds. If Apex goes under, the stock is gone." "Apex isn't going bankrupt," I said, my voice like ice. "Not until we've recovered our money." The head of our legal team jumped in. "His conduct is a flagrant breach of contract. We can demand immediate repayment of the bonds and force him to sell shares." Our investment strategist shot back. "With what money? Apex's cash flow is shot." A small, cold smile touched my lips. "And that is our leverage. Alexander has a secret source of funding. If we find that money, we control him." The meeting wrapped in an hour, our plan set. As they left, I held George back. "Get me a meeting with the lead FBI agent." "I need to look him in the eye." George hesitated. "Your father doesn't want you involved in the investigation. It's too dangerous." I shook my head. "The snake is already rattled. It's time to draw it out." Just then, my phone buzzed. It was Laura. "I have something unbelievable," she said, her voice electric. "My hospital contact confirmed Lucy Herrera had a GYN consult, but she also saw a plastic surgeon about a postpartum recovery plan." "What's so strange about that?" I asked, confused. "The plan was for a tummy tuck and stretch mark removal," Laura said quietly. "But her file says she has no stretch marks, no separated abs. She doesn't have the body of a woman 3 months pregnant." A knot tightened in my stomach. "Meaning? Either the file's wrong or—" Laura trailed off. "She's not pregnant. Not really." Alex's desperate words from last night echoed in my head. She threatened me with an abortion. "Can you get her full medical history?" I asked. "Working on it," she whispered. "Hang on." I just saw Lucy's car pull into the parking garage at Apex Tower. That made no sense. She should be hiding. "Follow her," I ordered. "And don't be seen." I disconnected and faced George. "We're going to Apex Tower." He looked stunned. "Miss Hayes, it's not safe. The employees there are hostile." "That's exactly why I have to go," I said, my jaw set. "I need to see for myself what kind of game my husband is playing." 30 minutes later, we were parked across the street from the tower, watching the reporters camped outside. "Vance is on the top floor," George reported, tablet in hand, "but the security log shows Lucy Herrera is in the VIP meeting room on the 22nd floor, and there are no meetings scheduled. Contact our man inside. Find out what's happening on 22. Being a major shareholder had its perks, like eyes and ears inside Apex. The reply was fast. The 22nd floor was on lockdown, guarded by Alex's personal detail. An important guest had just arrived. An important guest. My mind raced. Pull the access logs for every car that entered the garage today. The data streamed in. One image snagged my attention. A black Mercedes SS 600. The plate was new, but a permit on the dash read Nexus Tech, Lucy's company. Victor Reed, I murmured. Mr. Sterling, you said he was Hispanic American? Yes, with a record so clean it felt scrubbed. I stared at the photo of the car. A chilling thought surfaced. That's the problem. It's too clean. Check all border crossings for that license plate. I want to know when it entered the country. While he worked, a text from Laura arrived. Saw Lucy come up from the garage with a man. East Asian, maybe 40, impeccably dressed. Definitely not just some employee. She sent a grainy photo. The man was in profile, sharp, wearing gold-rimmed glasses. He had an air of cold authority. I zoomed in on his wrist. That was a Patek Philippe, a limited edition. It cost more than a condo. At that moment, George's phone rang. His face went pale as he listened. Miss Hayes. Immigration records show Victor Reed entered the U.S. 3 days ago, but his passport name wasn't Victor Reed. It was Julian Hayes. Julian Hayes. The name clawed at my memory. George kept digging, then gasped. He was the mastermind of that industrial espionage case 15 years ago, the one who almost ruined Hayes Corp. He fled to the States and changed his name. And then I remembered everything. My father's stories of the man who nearly destroyed him. It all clicked into place, a horrifying mosaic of betrayal. Alex hadn't just cheated on me. He was in bed with my family's worst enemy. Mr. Sterling, we're going up. My voice was steel. It's too dangerous, George pleaded. Your father was clear. If my father asks, tell him I had no choice. I was already out of the car. Some things have to be said face to face. Flanked by my security, I walked toward the entrance, a shark gliding through water. The reporters saw me and descended like vultures. Miss Hayes, are you here to see Mr. Vance? Is Hayes Corp pulling its funding? What about the NYC project? I stared straight ahead, a wall of calm, and pushed through the doors my security held open. The receptionist tried to block my path. Miss Hayes, I'm sorry. You need an appointment. Have you forgotten I still sit on the board of this company? My voice cut through her protest. The bylaws state I have access at any time. I didn't wait for an answer, striding toward the private elevator to the 22nd floor. George had already cleared the security from his tablet. We rose in silence. The doors slid open to 2 of Alex's bodyguards blocking the hall. I'm sorry, this floor is off limits. I could see a sliver of light from under the conference room door, hear the low hum of voices. Alexander Vance is in that room, isn't he? I pitched my voice to Carrie. Tell him Beatrice Hayes is here to see him. Now! One of the men spoke into his wrist. A moment later, the door opened. It was Alex. His face was a mask of fury. Beatrice, you shouldn't be here. His voice was cold. I smiled. Just exercising my shareholder rights. I heard Apex has a new partner. I thought it was time for an introduction. Over his shoulder, I could see them. Lucy, the man in the glasses, Julian, and a woman, her back to me. Her silhouette was sickeningly familiar. Alex kept blocking the door. This is a private company matter. And then, the woman by the window turned around. It was Eleanor Russo, my best friend from college. The air left my lungs. Ellie, the person I had trusted with my life. She'd left for a fellowship 2 years ago, and we'd just drifted apart. What was she doing here? Her eyes met mine, and for a second, she looked broken. Then, a brittle smile. B, it's been a long time. Alex saw it was useless. He stepped aside, his shoulders slumped in defeat, and let me into the room. The air was thick with tension. Lucy looked terrified. Julian looked amused. And Ellie just stood by the window, unable to look at me. Well, I said, my gaze sweeping the room. Quite the reunion. Aren't you going to introduce me, Alex? He ground his teeth. Mr. Reed is a new partner. Ellie is his executive assistant. His assistant. The lie was almost laughable. Julian stood, extending a smooth hand. Miss Hayes, I've heard so much about you. I'm Victor Reed, CEO of Nexus Tech. I ignored his hand. Julian Hayes, I said softly. Let's just use our real names, shall we? His smile didn't falter, but his eyes hardened. You're well informed, but that name is in the past. I'm a legitimate American businessman now. A businessman who built his company on stolen secrets? I shot back. Lucy jumped to her feet. Beatrice, you have no right. Mr. Reed is a vital partner to this company. Is he? I turned my full attention to her, my voice dropping to a whisper. So vital you'd fake a pregnancy to force my husband to humiliate me? Lucy's face went white as a sheet. What is this garbage? I'm carrying Alex's child. Then show me the report. I stepped toward her, a real one, with the right number of weeks. Alex cut in. That's enough, Beatrice. You need to leave. Now. Julian Hayes, or whatever his name was, stopped him. No, this is fine. I'm finding Miss Hayes very interesting. He moved closer, his eyes dissecting me. You have more fight in you than I expected. Not what your father described. I froze. You know my father? Julian just smiled. We go way back. But that's a story for another time. Let's talk about right now. He motioned for everyone to sit like he owned the room. Alex and Lucy sat like obedient children. Ellie just stood behind Julian, staring at the floor. The situation is simple, I said, not moving. Alexander Vance stole our trade secrets. My company will sue. Apex will be destroyed, and all of you are going to prison. Julian just laughed. So young, so dramatic. You think we'd do all this without a backup plan? He nodded, and after a second, Ellie handed me a folder. Take a look, Julian said. If you keep fighting this file goes public. I opened it, and my world tilted. They were pictures and records. My mother. Her treatment at a clinic in Switzerland for psychiatric care. How? My voice was a whisper. The fact my mother was overseas for depression was a secret. Only a few people knew. I told you I know your father. Julian smirked. Now let's talk terms. Alex looked just as stunned as I felt. It was obvious he had no idea. The Hayes Corporation will drop every action against Apex, Julian said, and you will formally recognize Lucy. Then, you'll sign over all rights to the NYC project to Nexus Tech. Do this, and your mother's secret stays buried. I squeezed my hands into fists, my nails biting into my skin. Are you threatening me? I'm offering a solution where everyone wins, he said, his voice calm. Or, your mother's illness becomes front-page news. Your company will face a crisis you can't even imagine. The air was thick and silent. I looked at Alex. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I looked at Lucy. She was practically glowing with triumph. I looked at Ellie. Her eyes were full of shame. And finally, I looked at Julian Hayes, my father's old rival, my blackmailer, and I started to laugh. Mr. Hayes, do you know why my father is one of the most powerful men in this country? Julian just raised an eyebrow. He was lucky. No, I said, my voice low and clear. It's because my father never ever gives in to blackmail. I pulled out my phone and hit stop. This whole conversation was just live streamed to my company's legal team and to the police. Now every single one of you is facing an extortion charge. Julian's smug look finally vanished. You... Right then, the doors flew open. Police officers, led by an FBI agent, filled the room. Julian Hayes, you're under arrest for industrial espionage. You need to come with us. The room exploded into chaos. Alex was babbling, trying to defend himself. Lucy was hysterical. Ellie looked like she'd seen a ghost. But Julian was eerily composed. He just stared at me. You're smart, just like him. But this game is just getting started. As they led him out, he shot a look at Alex. Remember our deal. After the police were gone, the room was dead silent. Alex was the first to snap. Beatrice, what have you done? He was our only shot. A shot at what? I shot back. He was about to shove you off a cliff. Lucy just collapsed into tears. It's over. It's all over. Ellie came up to me, her voice trembling. B, I'm so sorry. I had to. They were threatening my parents. Looking at the wreckage of my life, I just felt tired. My husband, my best friend, now just enemies and strangers. My phone buzzed, a text from my dad. "Well done. Come home. We need to talk." Outside the Apex Tower, the reporters were a nightmare. I ignored them all and got into the car. As we pulled away, I glanced back at the building. The sun glinted off the glass, but it couldn't hide the rot inside. George spoke softly from the driver's seat. "Miss Hayes, your father knows about Julian. He said it's time to end the 1.5-year feud." I stared out the window. The city kept moving, but something had shifted under the surface. Julian's words echoed in my head. The game has just begun. I knew somehow that this was going to be more complicated than I ever imagined. In the study, my father was staring at a wall of old photographs. I walked up beside him. He was looking at a faded picture of 2 young men. One was him. The other looked like him, but with a sharper edge. "That's Julian," my father said without turning. "He used our name once. He's my brother." I felt the floor drop out from under me. I stared at the photo, my father's brother. I never knew. I had an uncle. Why? My mind was racing. My father finally turned to face me. I saw a pain in his eyes I'd never seen before. 25 years ago, Julian was my best partner. We co-founded this company. Together, we built everything from nothing. He went to the bar and poured 2 whiskeys, handing one to me. I'd never seen my father drink like this or let his guard down. "What happened?" I asked. He took a long swallow, his eyes distant. We started to disagree on everything. I wanted to build slowly, create something that would last. He wanted to gamble, to expand at any cost. There was a huge government contract we were about to win, but Julian went behind my back. He gave our bid and our entire technical plan to our biggest competitor. I couldn't breathe. So that's why Julian knew so much. "And you lost the project?" My father shook his head. "Worse. His leak got us accused of stealing technology. The scandal almost destroyed us. Then he drained our cash reserves. He almost put us under for good." The study was silent except for the ice melting in our glasses. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" I finally asked. He gave me a sad smile. "You don't air your dirty laundry in public. And your mother, she had just gotten pregnant with you. I couldn't put her through that." I gave him a choice. Go to the police or disappear. He chose to disappear. He took the money, came to America, and built a new life. It clicked. That's how he knew about Mom. My father nodded. He knew everything about her, even her struggles. They used to be very close. Julian's betrayal broke something in your mother. It made her illness so much worse. All the pieces were finally coming together. Julian's familiarity with our company, with my parents, that look in his eyes. "Did Alex know?" I asked. My father thought for a moment. "I don't know, but Julian coming back now, working with Alex, it's not a coincidence." George knocked and came in, his face grim. "Sir, Miss Hayes, we have a problem. Julian Hayes was just released on bail. His lawyer argued he's a new arrival and had nothing to do with the old case. How is that possible?" I was floored. "The statute of limitations on that crime ran out 15 years ago," my father said, his voice like ice. "And he's a U.S. citizen now. Extradition is almost impossible. All they have is the extortion charge. Without more, they have to let him go." I felt helpless. I knew he was the monster, but we couldn't touch him. My father saw the look on my face. "Beatrice, some wars aren't won in a courtroom. We have to cut him off from Alex and protect what matters most. We have to protect this company." He walked to his desk, pulling out a thick binder. "This is our final bid for the NYC Smart City project. Since Nexus Tech has our old draft, let's give them a little surprise." I looked at the new plan, and I felt a spark of hope. You changed the core technology. Not just changed it, we reinvented it. My father's eyes had a sharp, strategic glint. "We're going to let them think they stole the crown jewels, but what they really have is poison. The plan was brilliant. Let them submit our old stolen proposal. We would present this new, superior one. The experts would see our technical advantage and their plagiarism instantly. This isn't enough, I told him, the words tasting like ash. Julian and Alex have something else planned. I can feel it. My father's nod was grim. That's why we fight on two fronts. You secure the New York deal. I'll confront Julian. But leaving his office, my mind snagged on Ellie. Why was she working for him? What did she mean? I had to find out. Back in my room, I dialed her number. She picked up, her voice a fragile whisper. I'm so sorry. What happened, Ellie? Why are you working for Julian Hayes? I asked, cutting straight to the point. The silence on the line was heavy. Finally, she choked out, My dad's company was drowning in debt. Julian offered to save it if I'd be his assistant and tell him about you. My stomach dropped. Ellie was my best friend. She knew everything, my routines, my tastes, even whispers of company business. What did you tell him? I asked, my voice tight. Your schedule, personal things, she sobbed. I swear, nothing critical about the business. I just realized he was targeting Hayes Corp. I tried to quit, but he threatened my father with bankruptcy. Where are you? I demanded. Home, she whispered. He hasn't called since he got out. I'm terrified. I took a breath. Ellie, if you want to fix this, you can help me. I'll do anything. Go back to him. But this time, you'll be my inside source. A long pause stretched between us. Okay, she finally said, her voice thin, but you have to keep my family safe. I will, I promised, but I need proof I can trust you. Julian and Alex are more than partners, she whispered. They have a secret deal. It involves offshore accounts and a shell company, Capital Orion. Capital Orion. The name sparked a memory. I'd seen it in Apex's ownership filings, a small but critical shareholder. After we hung up, I immediately had George start digging into Capital Orion. Moments later, a text from Laura lit up my screen. Bea, I got Lucy's full pregnancy records. It's a mess. Her hormone levels don't match her timeline, and there's no ultrasound. A doctor I know says she's either not pregnant or not nearly as far along as she claims. The news was a godsend. If Lucy's pregnancy was a lie, Alex's public excuse for his betrayal would crumble, and his reputation would be destroyed. Can we prove it for sure? I texted back. We'd need a new test from her, or her sealed medical files, Laura replied. But I found something else. There are multiple wire transfers between Lucy and Julian, far too much for an assistant's salary. Every piece was falling into place. Julian was using Lucy to control Alex, trying to seize Apex to launch his attack on my family's company. But why? Was this all just about a 15-year-old grudge, or was it something more? That evening, my phone rang with a number I never expected to see again. It was Alex's mother. Beatrice, can we please meet? There are things you need to know. My mother-in-law's voice was frayed with exhaustion. She had always been kind to me. Despite what her son did, I couldn't say no. We met in a quiet tea room. She looked years older, a deep, raw worry in her eyes. Mrs. Vance, I started out of habit. What is it you needed to tell me? She reached for my hand, her eyes glistening. Beatrice, first, I'm so sorry for what Alex did. It was unforgivable. But he wasn't himself. I felt my brow furrow. What do you mean? 3 months ago, Alex started changing, she said softly. He'd come home late, taking hushed, frantic calls. I overheard him once saying, I have no choice. I can't choose. She took a shaky breath. Then I found out he was meeting with a man named Julian Hayes. I looked him up and warned Alex to stay away, but he just said, Mr. Hayes can solve the crisis at Apex. What crisis? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. 6 months ago, a foreign investment went bad. The losses were massive, she admitted. Alex was too proud to tell you or your father, so he borrowed from private lenders. Julian showed up right when Alex was about to lose everything. I was speechless. Alex had told me the overseas losses were minor, that everything was fine. Julian paid off the debt, didn't he? She nodded. He paid it off and invested more. His price was a piece of Apex, and for Alex to publicly destroy you. Hearing it confirmed felt like a physical blow. Why? I don't understand why he despises my family so much. Her eyes held a universe of pain. He said it was revenge, she whispered, for what your father did to him all those years ago. Leaving the tea house, my heart felt like a block of ice. Alex's betrayal was inexcusable, but he'd also been trapped. Still, did that give him the right to humiliate me and steal from my family? In the car, George had news. First Capital Orion was Julian's, and through it, he secretly controlled 12% of Apex. And second, the NYC project bid was moved up to tomorrow morning. So soon? I asked, shocked. It was supposed to be next week. The committee just sent notice, a scheduling change. George's face was grim. Worse, Nexus Tech already submitted their bid. Their technical specs are almost a mirror image of our draft. A bitter smile touched my lips. So they fell for it. But a cold knot of dread formed in my stomach. A snake like Julian wouldn't be caught in such a simple trap. Later that night, as I was double-checking our final proposal, my father walked in. His face was as white as a sheet. "Beatrice, something's happened." His voice was hoarse. "The clinic called. Someone tried to break into your mother's room." I shot to my feet. "Is she okay?" "Security stopped them. She's fine." My father steadied himself. "But these weren't amateurs. They were after your mother's medical files." Julian's threat echoed in my mind. He was actually going after my mother. "We have to move her now," I urged. He shook his head. "It's too risky. We've added more guards, but it's not a permanent solution." He looked at me then, a profound fear in his eyes I had never seen before. "Beatrice, this isn't just about business for him. He wants to burn the Hayes Corporation to the ground, our entire family, and you are his primary target." "Why me?" I couldn't understand. My father was quiet for a long moment. Years ago, when Julian turned on me, it wasn't just about the company. It was about your mother. The air left my lungs. "What are you talking about?" "Julian was in love with her," my father said, the words costing him everything. "When she chose me, he never forgave either of us. It's one of the real reasons he betrayed me." The truth hit me like a physical force. This was never just about money. It was about a broken heart. That's why I was his target. I was the living symbol of what he'd lost. My father put a heavy hand on my shoulder. "After the presentation tomorrow, I want you to go abroad for a while." "No," I said, my voice solid steel. "I'm staying. I'm a Hayes. We don't run." He stared at me, then a slow, tired nod. "All right, but be careful. Julian is a cornered animal now, and he'll do anything." I didn't sleep. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from a blocked number. "I have a surprise waiting for you at the presentation tomorrow. I'm looking forward to your performance, niece." It was Julian, calling me niece, twisting our family connection into a threat. I typed back, "Me too, Uncle. Don't forget, the Hayes family knows how to stage a comeback." I set the phone down and stared out at the city, at the deep, dark sky just before dawn. Tomorrow would be a battle, but I had no idea that Julian's surprise was more than just a corporate maneuver. It was a kill shot. The crowd of reporters outside the NYC project venue was a circus. Our family scandal had turned a dry corporate bid into front-page news. The moment I stepped out of the car, I was blinded by camera flashes. I had chosen my armor carefully, a tailored navy suit, sharp and professional, with simple pearl earrings. I would not look like a victim. I would look like the future of the Hayes Corporation. "Miss Hayes, is it true you're presenting today? Are you nervous about competing with Apex? Have you filed for divorce from Mr. Vance?" I offered them nothing but a calm smile as my security detail cleared a path into the building. George stayed close, murmuring final updates in my ear. My husband and his mistress, Lucy Herrera, were already in the waiting room. Julian Hayes was there too, observing. I'd asked George about Ellie. He said she was Julian's assistant. 10 minutes ago, she'd sent a coded text, "Be careful during the demo." I felt a chill and put my guard up. The pitch had 3 parts: the proposal, a tech demo, and then questions. I knew Julian had laid a trap in one of them. Walking in, I saw Alex and Lucy immediately. They were in the front row, laughing with the jury. Alex looked worn out, but he was faking it well. Lucy's dress was loose, making sure everyone saw her pregnant belly. As I walked past, she deliberately spoke louder. "Honey," she said, "the doctor says our baby is so healthy. He must know his daddy's about to win big." I didn't look back, but I could feel Alex's eyes on me. I found our seats. Laura slipped me a USB drive. "Just got it," she whispered. "Lucy's medical files. She's not pregnant. Not for the last 3 months." "No way." I put the drive in my pocket. "Not yet." At 9 a.m., it all began. 5 companies, but it was really just us against them. They drew lots. Alex's company went first. We were last. He walked on stage, radiating a confidence he didn't own. His presentation was perfect because it was ours. They had stolen our draft and just slapped their logo on it. I saw some of the experts on the jury exchange glances. One of them frowned. They recognized it too. It was almost identical to the roadmap our company had published. During the Q&A, one of them asked, "Mr. Vance, this is very similar to a white paper Hayes Corporation released last month." "It's a common direction for the industry," Alex said smoothly. "Our algorithm is different. We'll share the details when we get the contract." It was a complete lie, but I said nothing. It wasn't time to play my hand. The other companies were forgettable. Finally, it was my turn. I walked up, took a deep breath, and forced a smile. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, "today I'm presenting our vision for New York City's future, a solution designed by the Hayes Corporation." I started my presentation, intentionally skipping the slides that looked like theirs. "You might notice some surface-level similarities to Apex's proposal," I said. "But the truth is, 3 months ago, we threw that entire roadmap out and started over." A low murmur filled the room. I saw Alex sit up straight. Lucy's smile faltered. I moved on, showing them the real plan: a better energy grid, smarter traffic, greener materials. The jury was captivated, scribbling notes. Then I played my trump card. "We've partnered with MIT on a patented AI urban management system." This was the secret my father had told me about just last night. A top-secret project only a handful of people in our company even knew existed. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. The questions were all about our new tech. It was going perfectly. Too perfectly. Then came the live demonstration. We each had to show our technology working in real time. We had a model and a data screen to show the city simulation. I explained it while George ran the system. It started fine, but then I saw George begin to struggle. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "Next we'll show the traffic optimization," I said. But he couldn't get the button to work. The screen flickered and died, a blue screen of death. The room buzzed. Before our tech guys could fix it, the screen came back on. But it wasn't our demo. It was my mother's medical file. For a second, I couldn't breathe. It read, "Patient, Carmen Hayes. Diagnosis, major depressive disorder. Treatment, Alpine Health Center, Switzerland." Cameras were flashing everywhere. The room was chaos. I just stood there, frozen. This was Julian's trap. Alex stood up, pretending to be concerned. "Beatrice, what happened? Maybe we should take a break." His voice snapped me out of it. I saw Julian in the back, a small, cruel smile on his face. Ellie was beside him, pale, shaking her head. I took a breath. "My apologies. It appears we are under a cyber attack. This just proves how critical network security is, and our solution has the most advanced defense system to prevent this very thing." The jury nodded, but the damage was done. They had put my mother's pain on display for the world. My heart broke. The demo was cut short while the jury went to deliberate. I ran to a side room and locked the door, and the tears I'd been holding back finally fell. This wasn't about business. Julian wanted to destroy us. A knock. It was George. "Miss Hayes, we found it. A virus. It was activated by a sound wave. It was likely emitted from Lucy Herrera's bracelet." I wiped my face and opened the door. "Do you have proof?" He nodded. "The team secured it, and Laura Bennett just broke a story about Lucy's fake pregnancy." I grabbed my phone. It was everywhere. Apex CEO's Mistress faked pregnancy, records show. The story had Lucy's real medical files. The comments section was on fire. Public opinion was turning on them, hard. "Perfect timing," George said. "The jury is deciding now. This has to affect their view of Apex's credibility." But I wasn't relieved. Julian was too careful for this. As we returned to the hall, I saw Lucy sobbing in a corner. Alex was on the phone, his face gray. Julian, however, was perfectly calm. He actually gestured to me as if to say, "Nice move." Finally, the jury chairman came back on stage. After careful deliberation, the winner of the New York City Smart City project is the Hayes Corporation. Our team erupted in cheers, but I felt a knot in my stomach. It was too easy. This wasn't Julian's style, and I was right. Alex shot to his feet. "I object. Hayes Corporation used illegal methods to leak our trade secrets." The room went silent. The chairman frowned. "Mr. Vance, do you have evidence?" Alex held up a USB drive. "Right here. Proof that they stole our tech." "In fact," he said, looking right at me, "Beatrice Hayes, bitter about our failed marriage, used her position to steal our work and frame us." I was stunned silent by the audacity. The jury started whispering. Julian was smiling, enjoying his masterpiece. Then my phone buzzed, a text from Ellie. It said, "Check your email, now." I signaled to George, who pulled it up on his tablet. It was an anonymous email with an audio file. He hit play, and Alex's voice filled the silence. "Once we get the Hayes tech, Mr. Reed promised us triple the reward." Then Lucy's voice, "But that's Beatrice's family." "Don't talk about her," Alex snapped. "Her family always looked down on me. Now it's my turn to make them pay." It was an illegal recording, but it was everything. A full confession. I told George to connect the audio to the main speakers. As his own voice echoed through the hall, Alex's face went white. "No," he whispered, "that's impossible." When it finished, the room was dead silent. Every eye, every camera was on him. The chairman cleared his throat. "Based on this new evidence, the jury reaffirms its decision. The award goes to the Hayes Corporation." I told them to investigate Apex and Nexus. My husband Alex just collapsed in his chair, his face like ash. His sister was gone. I looked down at him. "Do you get it now? We were just pawns in Julian's sick game. The only difference is, I fought back." He looked up at me, his eyes finally showing a flicker of regret. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice ice. "It's too late for that. Get a lawyer. This is just the beginning." As I left, Julian stopped me. "A brilliant show, my dear, but you forgot one thing." I met his gaze. "And what's that?" He smiled. "That recording you have? It was obtained illegally. It will never hold up in court." My stomach dropped. He was right. The evidence could be tossed out. "Besides," he whispered, "your private medical history is out. Imagine what happens when they learn the chairman's wife has mental health issues." I clenched my fists. "You'll pay for this." He just laughed. "I already have. 15 years worth. Tell your husband round 2 has just begun." After Julian left, my lawyer, George, ran over. "There's news. Something just happened at your doctor's office." My blood ran cold. "My records?" "Not exactly," George said quickly. "A nurse was caught trying to steal them. She confessed Julian Hayes hired her." "Do we have proof?" I asked, my voice tight. "She was caught with the files. The police are involved," George confirmed. "We can charge him with invasion of privacy." "Finally," I breathed. I called my husband to tell him. He was quiet, then just said, "Beatrice, you did well, but come home now. Julian is unhinged. I'm worried about you." Back in the car, the day replayed in my mind. We had won, but his threat hung in the air. What he did to me was unforgivable. As we pulled into the garage, I heard a scream. "Look out!" A gunshot exploded next to my head, shattering the window. Bodyguards swarmed me as another chased the sound. Through the chaos, I saw a familiar figure running away. "Ma'am, are you okay?" George's voice was shaking. I shook my head, my heart hammering against my ribs. The head of security came back, his face grim. "He's gone, but he dropped this." He showed me a shell casing and a lapel pin from Capital Orion. Julian was using violence now. In my office, I couldn't stop shaking. I had to focus. Julian's desperation meant he was cornered. His stock in Apex had cratered. It was about to be delisted. His entire investment in Capital Orion was turning to dust. At the same time, Nexus Tech was frozen under investigation. Both of his bets were failing. That's why he was so reckless. George took a call, his face twisting. The police found the shooter. "Who was it?" I demanded. "Eleanor Russo's father," George said in disbelief. "He says Julian Hayes ordered him. He claims it was just a warning, not an attempt to kill." I remembered Ellie telling me Julian had her father trapped. Now he'd turned him into a criminal. This crossed a line. Does Ellie know? Probably not. Then my own phone rang. It was Ellie sobbing. "Beatrice, I'm so sorry. It was my father. Julian threatened him. He said he'd ruin us, put my brother in jail." I closed my eyes. The depths of Julian's cruelty were stunning. Using a father's love to force his hand. "Ellie, where are you?" "At home. I'm terrified they're watching me." "Come to my office now," I said. "You'll be safe here." After the call, I sent a car for Ellie. It hit me that Julian's greatest weakness was his cruelty. He burned through people, and that made them willing to turn on him. Just then, a text came through from an unknown number. "Want this to end? Pier Warehouse 7, 10 o'clock tonight. Come alone." It had to be Julian. It was a clear trap, but it was also my only chance. "It's too dangerous," George insisted. "You can't go." "Get the team ready," I told him. "I'm going, but not alone." "Surround the warehouse. I need to see him. I need to know what he really wants." As night fell, I stared out at the city lights, my whole body tense. Maybe this night could finally end this nightmare. But I had no idea the secret waiting for me at that pier would change everything I thought I knew. At 9:40, I watched the distant pier lights from my office window. George tried one last time. "This is too risky. We can have the police handle it. You don't have to go." I shook my head. He asked for me. If he sees police, he'll disappear. I have to be there. "Let me go with you," George pleaded. "No," he said, "alone. You stay outside and move in if anything happens." He finally nodded. "We have 12 guards in place. We have a sniper and a drone overhead. We will move at the first sign of trouble." I put on the bulletproof vest. In the mirror, my face was pale, but my eyes were steady. Tonight, I wasn't just facing a rival. I was facing my own blood. As the car drove toward the water, I kept wondering what Julian wanted. A deal or revenge? My phone buzzed. It was my father. I took a breath and answered. "Beatrice, I know where you're going," he said, his voice heavy. "I need to tell you about Julian, about the past." I gripped the phone. "Tell me." "The reason I forced him out of the family wasn't just business," he said, the words hurting him. "It was what he did to your mother." My heart stopped. "What he did?" My father was quiet for a moment. "He tried to assault her. That was the last straw." The words hit me like a physical blow. I thought this was about greed, but it was something so much uglier. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" My voice trembled. "I wanted to protect you from it," he sighed. "But you have to know who you're dealing with. He hates me, and he hates you for being our daughter. Be careful. He is capable of anything." After we hung up, the world tilted. Julian wasn't just a monster. He was a predator. At the pier, I breathed in the salt air and walked toward Warehouse 7. The door was cracked open, a pale light inside. I pushed it and stepped in. Julian stood in the middle, his back to me. "You came, niece." Bolder than I thought. He didn't turn. "Just say what you have to say." I kept my hand on the pepper spray in my pocket. He turned slowly, a sick smile on his face. "First, congratulations on the win today. A brilliant move." "Thanks. Now why am I here?" He stepped toward me. I stepped back. "I want to tell you a story about two brothers and the woman they both loved." "I've heard it," I said, my voice cold. "The one where you betrayed your family and attacked my mother." His smile vanished. "Is that what he told you?" He always was good at twisting the truth. "I loved Carmen first. I waited for her for 3 years before your father showed up with all his money and power." I stayed silent. "The business was just an excuse," he raged. "I couldn't stand watching them together. I couldn't stand him having everything while I had nothing." "So you betrayed him. You stole from him. And you went after my mother." I couldn't finish the thought. He sneered. That night, Carmen came to me. She told me she regretted choosing him. She said she loved me all along. "That's a lie," I shot back. "My mother never loved you." His eyes turned venomous. "How would you know?" "Because your father told you. To you, he's a saint and I'm the devil." His voice leveled out, suddenly cold and controlled. "But none of that matters. I called you here to end this." From a folder, he slid out a document. "A stock transfer. Sign over your 20% of Hayes Corporation to me. And in return, I'll disappear from your life for good." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "You're insane. Why would I ever agree to that?" "If you don't," he said slowly, "the press gets a news story tomorrow about your mother. Her suicide attempts, the breakdowns, the photos. My blood turned to ice. You wouldn't." "Oh, I would." He sneered. "I even have her letters to me. The ones she wrote when she wasn't well. You think anyone will care about that context?" My body shook with a helpless rage. This man, my husband, had no soul left. Just then, a noise echoed from the second-floor catwalk. Julian's head snapped up. "Did you bring people?" "No," I said honestly, "but someone might have followed you." His eyes flickered. Then he laughed. "Even better. A bigger audience makes for a better show." He clapped, and a side door creaked open. 2 figures were shoved in. Alex and Lucy, bound and gagged. Their faces were masks of pure terror. I stared at Julian, horrified. "What is this?" "Tying up loose ends," he said, his voice flat. "These two have outlived their usefulness. They're witnesses. I can take care of that problem for you." Alex shook his head, his eyes pleading. Lucy was a sobbing wreck. It hit me then. Julian was completely unhinged. He planned to finish everything tonight. "You won't get away with this," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "This place is surrounded." "Oh, I know," he said, surprising me. "But I brought friends, too." He glanced at his watch. "And it's almost time." Suddenly, shouts and gunfire erupted outside. My heart plummeted. He had planned for this. His men were fighting mine. While his head was turned, I pressed the panic button in my pocket and lunged for Alex and Lucy to try and free them. "Don't move." Julian had a gun on me. "Stay right there." I froze. The dark hole of the barrel fixed on my chest. "You'd kill someone over a 5-year-old grudge?" "Grudge?" He laughed. "This isn't about the past. It's about my future. Half of Hayes Corporation was mine. I'm just taking it back." The fight outside grew louder. Then dark shapes dropped silently from the rafters. It was George and his special security team. In a flash, Julian grabbed me, his arm tight around my neck. The cold metal of the gun pressed against my temple. "Nobody move or she dies." The team froze. George stepped out from the shadows, his own weapon aimed at Julian. "Let her go. There's no way out." Julian just smiled. Escape? I never planned on escaping. He dragged me backward toward a large shipping container. The door was slightly open. Inside, I saw a strange device. "Know what that is?" he whispered in my ear. "Enough C4 to turn this warehouse into a crater. If I can't have my life, then we all die together." A wave of horror washed over the room. Alex and Lucy struggled against their bonds, their muffled cries filled with panic. George lowered his gun. "Easy, Mr. Hayes. We can talk." "The time for talking is over," Julian snapped. "Do what I say, or I press this button." Just then, the main warehouse door crashed inward, and my father stood there, flanked by his men. "Let my daughter go, Julian." Dad raised his gun, but I could see his hand was shaking. Seeing him, something flickered in Julian's eyes. "Franklin, you made it. Perfect timing for a family reunion." "What do you want?" my father asked, his voice cold steel. "Money? The company? I'll give it to you." "Too late," Julian said, shaking his head. "What I want now isn't money. It's a conclusion." He scanned the room. "Everyone, drop your weapons. Now. Back away. I'm counting to 3. My father signaled, and guns clattered to the floor. As Julian dragged me closer to the container, I saw it. The detonator in his hand still had the safety pin in. It had to be pulled first. I would only get one chance. As he shouted 2, I slammed my elbow into his stomach, ducked, and twisted the gun from his grasp. A self-defense move from college I never thought I'd use. As Julian cried out in pain, I rolled clear of him. George's team swarmed him, but just as they took him down, Julian yanked the pin. "Die with me!" he shrieked, laughing like a madman. My father yelled, "Beatrice, get back!" An explosion rocked a corner of the warehouse, but it was small, a distraction. The real danger was above. A huge steel beam from an overhead crane broke loose, plummeting toward us. Dad shoved me hard out of the way, but the beam grazed him, sending him to the ground. "Dad!" I screamed, scrambling to his side. George's team provided cover fire as they tried to get us out. Alex and Lucy, free in the chaos, were running for their lives. Through the smoke, I saw Julian break free again, grabbing an iron bar and charging my father. "Franklin, your day has come." He raised the bar. Without thinking, I fired. Not at him, but at a rope hanging just above his head. A heavy sandbag fell, smashing into his arm. The bar clattered to the floor as he screamed in agony. The guards were on him instantly, this time for good. I knelt by my father. He was bleeding from his head, but his eyes were open. "Beatrice, are you okay?" "I'm fine, Dad. Don't talk." "Help is coming," I said, my voice trembling. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely press on the wound. Dad grabbed my hand. "I have to tell you, Julian." His eyes went wide, looking past me. I spun around. Julian was up again, charging with another iron bar. "Die, Franklin," he howled. Then a single sharp crack of a gunshot. Julian froze mid-stride. The iron bar fell from his hand. A dark stain spread across his chest, and he crumpled to the floor. It was George. His face was white, but his aim had been true. A sudden ringing silence fell over the warehouse, broken only by the sound of distant approaching sirens. I held my father, and the tears finally came. "You did good, Beatrice," Dad whispered. "You were braver than I ever was." The paramedics arrived, carefully loading him onto a stretcher. Julian was taken away too. George's shot had hit his shoulder, missing anything vital. Before they closed the ambulance doors, Dad gripped my hand. "Beatrice, Hayes Corporation is in your hands now." I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "I'll protect it, Dad, until you're back." After they left, I stood alone in the wreckage. A soul-crushing exhaustion washed over me. George walked over. "Miss Hayes, they've arrested Alexander Vance and Lucy Herrera. They ran right into the police roadblocks." I just nodded, watching them load Julian into a squad car. His eyes were vacant, the fire completely gone. "What will happen to him?" "Life, most likely," George answered. "They found everything at his apartment. The entire plan to steal the trade secrets from your company. As the police cars pulled away, Laura arrived, her face etched with worry. Seeing the devastation, she ran and hugged me. "Oh my God, Bea, are you all right?" I managed a weak smile. "I'm fine, but I need a favor. Anything. Can you try to keep my mother out of the news? She's been through enough," I pleaded. Laura's expression turned serious. "I'll do everything I can. Honestly, the press is more focused on Julian's crime spree and Lucy's fake pregnancy. We can keep your mother's story quiet." Early the next morning, I returned to the Greenwich mansion. Our butler called to tell me Dad's surgery was a success. His life was no longer in danger. I soaked in the tub, trying to wash away the night's stench of smoke and fear. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Julian's face, twisted with hate. Drying off, I looked in the mirror. I was exhausted, but my eyes held a new strength, a hardness that wasn't there before. After walking through fire, I was no longer the woman who shattered at her husband's betrayal. I put on my robe and went to my father's study, pulling out an old photo album. I found the picture of him and Julian as young men, arms around each other, grinning as if they could conquer the world. Who could have known that 15 years later it would come to this? My phone rang. It was the hospital. My father was awake and asking for me. I drove there in a daze. He was pale in the hospital bed, but his eyes were clear. "Beatrice," he whispered, motioning me closer. "Come here." I sat and took his hand. "How are you?" He gave a weak, bitter smile. "Getting old. One bad fall and I'm laid up like this." After a moment, he spoke again. "I'm so sorry about Julian for pulling you into this." "It's not your fault, Dad," I said softly. "He chose this." My father sighed. Maybe I was too hard on him all those years ago. "Julian pushed him too far and then he tried to hurt my mother. That's something I can't forgive," I said, my voice leaving no room for doubt. "You did nothing wrong." My father's eyes swam with tears. "Thank you, Beatrice," he whispered, then motioned for George to bring over a file. "This gives you power of attorney over my shares and control. I need you to be the interim CEO while I'm recovering." I stared at the document, the weight of his words settling on me. "Dad, I don't know if I can." He looked me straight in the eye. "You're ready. What you did tonight proved you're stronger than I ever knew. This company needs you." I took a shaky breath and gave him a single, determined nod. "I'll do my best." The sky was just beginning to blush with dawn when I left the hospital, the city feeling clean and new. George held the car door open. "Where to, Miss Hayes?" I thought for a moment. "The police station. I need to speak with Alexander Vance and Lucy Herrera." It was time to close this chapter for good. Alexander looked like a broken man. When he saw me through the glass, a storm of emotions crossed his face. "Beatrice, I'm sorry." I met his gaze, feeling nothing but a cold calm. "I accept your apology, but that doesn't stop what's coming." He dropped his head. "I know. Julian pulled all the strings." "We all have choices," I cut him off. "You could have come to me. Instead, you let him blackmail you." He had no answer. "If you cooperate completely, tell the police everything about Julian's crimes, I'll consider going easier on the civil suit." A flicker of hope ignited in his eyes. "I will. I'll tell them everything, I swear. Lucy was a complete wreck. Miss Hayes, please, it was all Julian's idea. I never wanted to destroy your marriage." I looked at her, my expression like stone. Was the fake pregnancy his idea too? The question shattered her composure, and she collapsed into sobs. I love Alex, and I wanted to keep him." "Love isn't an excuse for cruelty," I said, standing to leave. "Try to get your life together." Outside, the sun was bright, and I took a deep, clean breath, feeling a peace I hadn't felt in months. My phone buzzed. It was Laura. "Have you seen the news? The story has completely flipped." "Everyone's on your side. They're calling you the new queen of business." A dry smile touched my lips. "That's a bit much." "Well, get ready for this," she said, her voice buzzing with excitement. What? As of this morning, I'm the interim CEO of Hayes Corporation. The silence on her end was followed by a shriek of pure joy. Yes! Now that's how you get revenge, by living better than they ever could. After we hung up, I had George drive me to the office. The city rushed by outside my window, and I knew Julian's downfall wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Hayes Corporation had to rise from these ashes, stronger than before. The car pulled up to the Hayes Corporation tower. I stepped out, looking up at the wall of glass that scraped the sky, my father's empire now in my hands. As George opened the main doors, the staff parted, their eyes following me with a mixture of curiosity and hope as I crossed the lobby. In the private elevator, I met my own gaze in the mirror, straightening the collar of my jacket. The woman looking back was resolute, her posture unbending. The humiliated wife from the gala was gone. As the doors slid open to the executive floor, I walked toward my father's office. A new chapter was starting. From his window, the entire city seemed to be laid out at my feet. The office was just like him, clean, functional, no frills. The only personal touch was a framed photo on his desk from my college graduation. My parents were beaming, and I stood between them, my smile full of naive hope for the future. It was hard to believe how much had changed in just a few years. "Miss Hayes," George's voice crackled through the intercom, "the department heads are assembled for the meeting." I took a deep breath. I'm on my way. This was my first time addressing them as their leader. I'd chosen a charcoal gray pantsuit, my hair pulled into a severe bun. My makeup was armor, meant to emphasize, not soften. I needed them to see a leader, not just a placeholder. As I entered the conference room, 24 executives got to their feet. I could feel the skepticism radiating from some of the older men, the ones who had watched me grow up. "Please be seated," I said from the head of the table, my voice even and calm. "Thank you for holding things together during this crisis. My father's surgery went well, and he's recovering. In his absence, I will be fulfilling the duties of CEO." I let my eyes sweep across the room. "I know some of you have reservations. That's fine. Judge me by my results. Now, let's start with the department reports." Over the next 2 hours, I absorbed everything. The scandal had hurt us, no question. Our stock was unsteady, and some partners were getting nervous. But the company's foundation was solid. The biggest problem was the New York City project. Our CFO explained that Apex's collapse had strained our cash flow right when we needed a massive capital injection. I nodded. "What is the status of recovering our funds from Apex?" Our chief counsel spoke up. "Alexander Vance's assets are frozen, but getting the money back will be a long process. Plus, with Julian's trial coming up, we're drowning in evidence preparation." After the meeting, I asked the key leaders to stay behind. "We're forming a special task force, and I will be leading it personally. Our goal is to restore our stock price within 3 months and get the New York City project funded and launched." They exchanged uneasy glances, the timeline clearly shocking them. "Any issues?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. A senior VP cleared his throat. "Interim CEO. 3 months is ambitious. The market is unforgiving and our rivals are circling." I cut him off. "We either recover fast or we die slow. There's no in between." I flipped on the projector. "This is my initial plan. First, we liquidate non-essential assets for immediate capital. Second, we partner with a top university to launch an innovation lab, boosting our tech profile. Third, a full-scale media campaign to bury the bad press and highlight our corporate responsibility." The room was stunned into silence by the detailed strategy. They saw then that I hadn't come in unprepared. "I'll email the specifics. Get started today." I dismissed them, leaving no room for argument. Back in the office, George buzzed. "Miss Hayes, and Eleanor Russo is here to see you." Ellie. I'd almost forgotten. "Send her in." She looked healthier, but the fear hadn't quite left her eyes. "Thank you," she started immediately, "for not pressing charges against my dad. He was trapped." "I know," I said, gesturing to a chair. What are your plans now?" She looked down. "I want to leave this city, but Julian's people—" "We have an opening for a market analyst at our Singapore branch," I said, sliding a folder across the desk. "The job is yours if you want it. The company will handle your housing and security." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why, after what I did to you?" "Because you made the right choice in the end," I answered softly, "and I believe everyone deserves a second chance." She took the folder, bowed deeply, and walked out, sobbing quietly. I truly hoped this would be a new beginning for both of us. That afternoon, I toured the departments, speaking to employees face to face, something my father rarely did. I found a stalled smart home project in R&D and immediately greenlit more funding. In marketing, I shot down a timid campaign. "We need to be bold, not defensive," I told the director. "Hayes Corporation needs to project vitality. We have to capture the next generation." Just as I was packing up for the evening, Alexander's lawyer appeared. "Interim CEO," he began. "I'm here on behalf of Mr. Vance to discuss the terms of your divorce." He handed me a thick document. I scanned it quickly with George. Tucked inside the clauses was a demand for a portion of my personal stock in Hayes Corporation, arguing its value had soared during our marriage. The sheer audacity of it made me laugh out loud. "Tell Alexander Vance," I said, my voice dangerously low, "that if he pursues this, I will add charges for corporate espionage and fraud that will double his prison sentence." The lawyer was sweating. "I'll deliver the terms." After he left, George looked at me, his face etched with worry. "Are we backing him into a corner?" "He has nowhere else to go," I said, my voice ice. "With Julian gone, Alex lost his safety net. Now his only hope is that I'll show mercy." An hour later, my phone rang. It was the lawyer. Alex had folded. He agreed to everything, walking away with nothing just for a fast divorce and my silence. "A wise choice," I said, hanging up. But I felt no victory, just a cold, empty space where our marriage used to be. 3 years of my life, settled like a business deal. The next day, I began to reclaim my own story, starting with an exclusive interview with Laura. I spoke openly about the end of my marriage, but I refused to let it define me. "I was a daughter of the Hayes Corporation first," I said, "and now I am its guardian." We aren't defined by our marital status. A woman's value is her own. When she asked about Julian, I was careful. "It's in the hands of the courts now, so I can't comment." I let that sink in. Every family has its demons. What defines you is how you face them. The reaction was bigger than I'd imagined. The hashtag Beatrice Hayes Independent Woman trended. They called me graceful and strong. My father called from his hospital room. "Beatrice, the interview was brilliant. Your mother saw it. She's so proud of you." A warmth spread through my chest. "Mom, is she doing okay?" The shock of the leak hit her hard, but seeing you, it gave her a spark. His voice was filled with relief. Maybe this is her chance to finally come back to us. An idea solidified in my mind. I want to bring Mom home for treatment. The clinic is good, but she needs her family. My father was quiet for a moment. "The risk is so high." "I'll assemble the best medical team in the country," I promised. "With Julian in custody, half the threat is gone. The other half," I said, taking a steadying breath, "is for our family to face together." He finally gave in. George started making the calls, arranging everything. At the same time, Hayes Corporation stock began its slow climb back. The asset sale was moving forward and our New York City project was officially underway. A week later, I stood at the groundbreaking ceremony in New York. Facing the press, I spoke about our vision. "This is more than just a commercial project," I explained, with a confidence I was just starting to feel. "It's our promise to this city to build a smarter, greener, more human space." I announced a 5% donation of the project's profits to charity, and the applause was thunderous. Afterwards, a figure from my past materialized. Lucy. She was gaunt and pale, a shadow of her former self. "Miss Hayes, can I have a moment?" I signaled my security to step back, but kept a careful distance. "What is it?" I know I don't deserve it, she sobbed. But please don't press charges about the pregnancy. I had no other choice. I looked at her, my face unreadable. Julian forced you to lie. She shook her head, then nodded. Not entirely. I wanted to use a baby to keep Alex. I never knew Julian would blow it up into this. But you still deceived me, I said, my voice void of compassion. The law will be impartial. If you have evidence against Julian, give it to the police for a lighter sentence. She cried uncontrollably. I have nothing. I was just a pawn. Watching them lead her away, I felt no satisfaction, only a deep sadness. In this war between men, women always seem to be the casualties. Lucy, my mother, and me. Back at the office, a strange envelope lay on my desk. George looked anxious, but I waved him off. Inside was an old photo of my father, Julian, and a woman I didn't recognize. On the back, a message was scrawled. Do you know why your father really cast me out? I stared at the unknown woman. Standing between the two brothers, she was smiling, and she looked a little like me. A cold feeling washed over me. I called my father. Dad, who is the woman in this picture? There was a long, heavy silence. He finally sighed. That's Inez, your mother's sister. My aunt? I was stunned. I never knew Mom had a sister. What happened to her? What does any of this have to do with Julian? The pain in my father's voice was sharp. He and Inez were in love, but she took her own life. She battled depression. Julian always blamed me for driving them apart. And the truth is, my father couldn't go on, but I knew there was more to the story. After the call, I stared at my aunt's smile in the photo. Another forgotten woman, another family secret. That night, I sat alone, looking over the organizational chart of the Hayes Corporation. This empire built by my father was now in my hands. It wasn't just a company, it was the weight of 3 generations of dreams and wounds. A notification popped up on my screen. Julian Hayes' first trial was set for tomorrow. I took a deep breath, sensing another storm was about to break. George came in to tell me to get some rest. I asked him, "Do you think I can lead this company to a better place?" He answered without hesitation. "Miss Hayes, you already have. It's not just your talent, but your character. The way you've handled all this, I've seen true leadership in you." I smiled faintly. "Thank you. But the real test starts now." Leaving the office, I looked out at the city lights, wondering how many secrets they held. My phone rang. It was the hospital. "Miss Hayes, your mother has arrived safely. She's asking to see you first, alone." A lump formed in my throat. "I'm on my way." My mind raced on the way to the hospital. How would she be? What would she say? Could a mother and daughter, torn apart by time and trauma, ever find their way back? I pushed open the door to her room. My mother was sitting by the window. Her silhouette against the moonlight looked so fragile. She turned to me, and her eyes, once so clouded, were clear. "Beatrice, you came." Tears welled in my own eyes. "Mom, are you okay?" She motioned for me to sit, her hand gently touching my face. "You've grown up. You're so much stronger than I ever realized." "I'm sorry I wasn't there for you all those years." "It's not your fault, Mom. I know that now." "Listen to me," she said, her tone suddenly firm. "About Julian. Your father only told you part of the story. There are things you need to know." She gazed out the window and began to unravel a different history. The story wasn't about my mother. It was about Inez. Inez was my sister and Julian's first love, but she was really in love with your father. She only chose Julian to keep the family from falling apart. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Your father rejected her, and the shock, it broke her. I held my breath. I never imagined the truth was so tragically tangled. Julian blamed your father for Inez's death, and that's where the hatred was born. My mother grabbed my hand. "You know the rest." I squeezed her hand back, feeling the weight of it all. One woman's choice had destroyed 2 brothers, and my mother had become a casualty of their war. "Mom, why are you telling me this now?" Because hate only creates more hate, she said, looking right at me. Julian went to an extreme, but we all played a part. I want you to lead this company differently. Lead with understanding, not just conquest. That night I sat with her until she fell asleep. Until, watching her peaceful face, I felt like a lost part of myself had been found. Leaving the hospital, I looked up at the stars. I finally understood. The real rebirth of this family wasn't about stock prices or new projects. It was about breaking free from the past. My phone rang. It was my father. "Beatrice, how's your mother?" "She's okay," I smiled. "She told me her side of the story." He was silent for a moment. "She's finally let go of that burden too. Maybe this whole disaster was a strange kind of salvation for us all." Before we hung up, I said, "Dad, when you're well, we're having a proper family dinner. No secrets, no shadows, just a normal dinner." His voice cracked. "Yes, let's do that." Back at home, I thought about the trial. As the key witness, I would have to face him. It would be my final goodbye to the past and the first day of my new life. As dawn broke, I put on a dark navy suit, my own armor of strength and hope. Today, Beatrice Hayes would not be a victim. I was the guardian of a reborn empire, and I knew this was only the beginning. The courtroom was cold and imposing. I sat in the witness stand, facing Julian. He was in an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, but his stare was like a blade, as if he still thought he was in control. "Miss Hayes, could you please describe your relationship to the defendant?" The prosecutor's voice was steady. I inhaled slowly. "The defendant, Julian Hayes, is my uncle. He's my father's brother." A ripple of whispers filled the courtroom. No one knew. It was the first they were hearing of our family connection. Julian's lawyer shot to his feet. "Objection. This relationship compromises the witness's credibility." The judge turned to me. "Could this relationship influence your testimony?" I met his gaze. "No, Your Honor. The fact that we're family is precisely why his betrayal is so unforgivable." The prosecutor moved on. "How did he interfere in your marriage?" I calmly recounted Julian's manipulations, the public humiliation he engineered, and the theft of our company's secrets. My voice wavered only once, mentioning my mother's leaked medical files, but I finished my testimony. The reporter's keyboards clicked furiously. It was better than television. When the defense began its cross-examination, the air in the room turned sharp. "Miss Hayes, didn't Hayes Corporation essentially control Apex Innovations?" "Hayes Corporation was a strategic investor," I answered, keeping my voice even. "That's standard practice." "Standard," he shot back. "Our information shows you controlled every major decision. What is that, if not control?" The prosecutor objected. "Your Honor, he's leading the witness." The objection was sustained. The lawyer shifted his attack. "Isn't it true that you held a deep resentment for Mr. Vance after your marriage failed?" "I was angry about my husband's betrayal," I cut in. "That's only human, but I never sought illegal revenge." "Are you certain?" he pressed. "Then why did Hayes Corporation launch a full-scale financial assault on Apex right after the gala? Wasn't that revenge?" The room went silent. I lifted my chin. "It was a necessary business measure to protect our interests, based on a breach of contract that Mr. Vance himself admitted to. Everything we did was legal and by the book." He looked frustrated but moved on. "You claim the defendant stole trade secrets. Where is your proof?" "Bank transfers, communication logs, and sworn testimony. They all prove Julian Hayes used Lucy Herrera to get confidential data for his own bid. Then he played his final card. But what if that so-called confidential information was provided to Lucy Herrera by you?" The accusation hung in the air. I was speechless. The prosecutor jumped up as the judge warned the defense attorney. But he pushed. "Your Honor, we have proof the witness secretly met with Lucy Herrera." My stomach dropped. It was a lie, but he had to have something. During a 15-minute recess, George rushed over. "They've faked photos, Julian's last desperate move. Can we prove they're fake? I whispered, my teeth clenched. The tech team is on it. They need time. When court resumed, the lawyer displayed several grainy photos of a woman who looked like me, handing files to Lucy. These were taken 1 week before the bid, the lawyer said. Do you deny meeting with Lucy Herrera? That woman is not me, I said flatly. I have never met her alone, and I never gave her any documents. He just smirked. Then how do you explain your fingerprints on the files she received? Another shockwave went through the room. I looked at our prosecutor, who seemed just as blindsided. The lawyer produced a report. It was a complete frame-up. I never touched those files. I couldn't stop my voice from rising. He could have easily lifted my prints from countless documents I handle at my own company. The judge called another recess. I was pacing the small room, my mind racing. Then George's phone rang, and a flicker of hope crossed his face. Our team found something. The woman in the photo doesn't have pierced ears. You do. When we returned, we presented the finding. The defense lawyer was caught off guard, but then something unbelievable happened. Julian stood up. Your Honor, I wish to testify. I admit to all the charges, he said calmly, but I want to clarify a few things. His own lawyer looked stunned. Julian looked at me. Beatrice, you're stronger than your father. I've lost, but you need to know the truth. He paused. Your father, Franklin Hayes, isn't the saint you think he is. He framed me years ago to take over the family business. The prosecutor objected, but the judge let him speak. And your mother's depression. That wasn't my fault. It was because of your father's affair with an employee named Marta Alonso. They had a son, an illegitimate child who works at your company right now. The courtroom exploded. Flashes went off everywhere. It felt like a bomb had detonated. I just stood there, frozen, my mind completely empty. The judge slammed his gavel, but the trial was over. It had to be suspended. Bodyguards got me through the chaos outside. The reporters screamed questions at me. Did you know about the son? Was your father unfaithful? In the car, I couldn't breathe. I was still in shock. Beatrice, it's a lie, George said gently. Don't listen to him. But a tiny, cold voice in my head asked, what if it's true? Back at the office, the whispers followed me down the hall. The story was already everywhere. I tried to work, but I couldn't focus. That afternoon, my father called. Beatrice, I saw the news. It's all lies. You believe me, don't you? There was a long silence before I spoke. Dad. Who is Marta Alonso? The line went dead quiet. That silence was worse than any confession. It's not what Julian said, he finally admitted. It was a mistake, a long time ago. There is no son. I closed my eyes, the world tilting. So part of it was true. Beatrice, he pleaded, everyone makes mistakes. My mistake was not being clean enough, giving Julian a weapon to use against me. Does Mom know? I asked, my voice shaking. No, he sighed, and she can never know. She couldn't handle it. After the call, I just sat there. My father, my hero, was cracking apart in my mind. That evening, an unknown number called. I hesitated, then answered. Miss Hayes, this is Marta Alonso. Her voice was soft. I am so sorry you found out this way. Please believe me. I never wanted to hurt your family, she continued, her voice breaking. Julian Hayes found me. He threatened me. I refused to help him. The affair, it ended a very long time ago, and there is no son. That was Julian's lie, she said. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I don't want you to hate your father, she said quietly. He's a good man. She trailed off, but I understood. We both did. When I hung up the phone, my thoughts were a tangled mess. Marta Alonso didn't sound like a monster, which only made the whole thing feel more tragic. The next day, Julian walked into court radiating smug satisfaction. He thought he had me. He had no idea what was coming. When his lawyer started in on the lie again, I rose to my feet. Your Honor, I wish to call Mrs. Marta Alonso to the stand. A ripple of shock went through the room. Julian's grin vanished. Marta appeared by video, a woman in her 50s, poised and gentle, nothing like the homewrecker I'd imagined. The prosecutor began. Mrs. Alonso, do you recognize the defendant, Julian Hayes? I do. He came to me a month ago, she said, her voice steady. He wanted me to help him destroy my father-in-law's name with this story about a child. I told him no. Julian shot to his feet, his face red with fury. She's lying. She and Franklin had an affair. Tears welled in Marta's eyes. We had a brief involvement, yes. It was a lifetime ago during a painful time in his marriage. It ended. I was never pregnant, she said, looking straight into the camera, as if she were speaking only to me. There is no son. I am so sorry for the shadow I cast on your family. I've lived with my regret in silence. The only person your father has ever truly loved is your mother, and you. The courtroom was stunned. Julian was finished. He started screaming, I was set up! Franklin has always been a master manipulator. I have proof. But it was just noise. The judge threatened him with contempt, and he finally fell silent. After 3 days, the jury came back. Guilty on all counts. Industrial espionage, extortion, invasion of privacy. When the judge read the sentence, Julian just stood there, his face a blank mask. Mr. Julian Hayes, for your crimes, you are sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. No chance of parole. The gavel fell, a sharp final sound that echoed in the silent room. A 15-year war was finally over. The reporters swarmed me afterward, but I kept it brief. Justice was served, but there's no joy in this. It's a family tragedy. Back at the office, a message from my father was waiting. It just said, "Thank you for trusting me. I owe you the truth." I typed back, "Mom is all that matters right now. Let's focus on her." A week later, she was doing so much better. The doctors said being home was the best medicine. That weekend, we walked in the garden, and she was almost her old self. "I hear you were a real shark in that courtroom," she said with a small smile. "Just like your mother." I laughed. "I guess it's in the blood." Then she grew quiet. "I always knew about Marta Alonso," she said softly. The world seemed to stop for a second. Yes, for a very long time. Marriage has its storms. The only thing that matters is if you decide to ride it out together. "Your father made a terrible mistake," she continued, "but he chose us, and I chose to forgive him." I stared at her, seeing for the first time the steel beneath her fragile surface. "Then why?" I asked, confused. "Why the depression?" She sighed. "It was never about that, sweetheart. It was losing your aunt," she whispered, "and the grief of knowing I could never have another child after you. I wanted so badly to give you a brother or sister." I wrapped my arms around her. "You and Dad are all I've ever needed." In that moment, a crushing weight I didn't even know I was carrying finally lifted. Maybe that's what growing up is, learning to accept the broken parts. That Monday, I called an all-hands meeting. I didn't dance around the scandal. "The Hayes Corporation has been through fire," I told them, "but we are still standing. We are stronger, and we are more united than ever before." I laid out a new path for us, one built on ethics and social responsibility, not just profit. We would create an oversight committee. We would invest in our people and in our community. We would do better. Be better. The applause felt real, earned. I could see the hope returning to their faces. Afterward, George came to my office, grinning. "The NYC project just got full funding from the National Innovation Fund, and the stock is back to where it was before all this." He paused. "Oh, and Forbes wants to name you Businesswoman of the Year." I shook my head. "Turn it down, George. This wasn't about me. This was about all of us." By the end of the month, the divorce was final. Signing the papers wasn't a celebration. It was a quiet closing of a painful chapter. Alex sent a letter through his lawyer. Beatrice, I'm sorry. His words echoed in my mind. You deserve better. Be happy. I burned his letter, hoping the wind would carry the ashes of our past away. That night, standing by my office window, the city lights a blur, my phone buzzed. It was Laura. It's Julian, she said, her voice tight. He tried to kill himself in prison. They got to him in time. My world stopped. Why? I whispered. They froze his offshore accounts, Laura explained with a heavy sigh. He lost everything. So it was the money, not the shame, not the remorse, just the money. After we hung up, the bitter truth settled in. He chose a path of pure destruction, and in the end, it was all that was left for him. Just then, a text from my father came through. Tomorrow is your mother's birthday, dinner at home. Just the three of us. No more secrets. I smiled. Yes, I typed back. And Dad? Thank you. We weren't perfect, but we were a family, and that was enough. Every light in the city below represented a story. I knew ours was just beginning a new chapter. The next day, I left work early to pick up the lilies I'd ordered for Mom, her favorite. The florist smiled as she wrapped them. CEO Hayes, I saw the stock hit an all-time high today. Congratulations. I managed a smile and a thank you, but my heart ached. They see the victory, not the war. When I got home, I found my father in the kitchen, wearing an apron and taking directions from our chef. I had to laugh. It was a sight I'd never seen before. Dad? What is all this? I asked, still smiling. He looked a little sheepish. Your mother mentioned she missed the steamed fish I used to make when we were first married. It's been a few decades. A warmth spread through my chest that had nothing to do with business or winning. When Mom came down, her eyes lit up at the sight of the flowers. You remembered. My father took her hand. 35 years ago, I asked you to marry me with a bouquet just like this one. In their faces, I saw what marriage was supposed to be. It wasn't about avoiding the storms. It was about holding on to each other until the sun came out again. Dinner was perfect. We talked about nothing and everything except work. Mom teased Dad that his fish was salty enough to preserve for another 35 years. Later, sitting in the garden, my mother took my hand. Beatrice, I'm going to start treatment. Really start it. Not for me, for us. My father's eyes glistened. Carmen, he breathed. I've spent so many years running, she said with a sad smile. It's time I stopped. Besides, she added, her eyes twinkling, I need to be around to see my daughter get married and have babies. I rolled my eyes. Mom, I just got divorced. Give me a break. We all laughed, a real healing sound under the stars. But peace never lasts long. The next day, George rushed into my office, his face pale. CEO, we have a problem. On his tablet was a news alert. Apex Innovations, Alex's company, had filed for bankruptcy. His life's work, gone. Thousands of people are going to lose their jobs. I felt a familiar sickness in my stomach. And Alex is missing. No one's seen him since last night, George said grimly, showing me a security feed. Last known location was the roof of his building. My blood ran cold. He wouldn't. And Lucy is gone too. The police are searching. As he said it, my phone rang. An unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Beatrix, it's me. Alex's voice unnervingly calm. Don't worry, I'm not going to jump. I just had to get away from the noise. I held my breath for a moment. Where are you going? I finally managed. I don't know, just away. He paused. I called to really apologize and to thank you for not destroying me in the end. I let out a soft, tired sigh. Take care of yourself, Alex. After hanging up, I told my head of security to call off the search. Sometimes letting go is the only way forward. That afternoon, I got a strange request. Several top engineers from Alex's failed company, Apex Innovations, wanted to join my firm. They come with game-changing technology, the project head told me. We've vetted them. They're brilliant, just in a tough spot. But given the history, We needed your approval. I studied their technical files. The work was undeniably valuable. Set up the interviews. Or, if they're as good as this looks, hire them. Our company doesn't ask about the past, only about talent. It turned out to be one of my best decisions. Their tech moved our NYC project ahead by 3 months, saving us hundreds of millions. A week later, my mother started her treatments. I rearranged my entire schedule to take her to the hospital twice a week. In a strange way, the ordeal brought us closer. After one session, Mom said, "Beatrice, I'd like to get involved at the company again." I stared at her, surprised. She was Dad's founding partner before her illness forced her to retire. "Not to take over," she added quickly. "I just want something I can manage. The Employee Wellness Foundation. Sitting around all day is making me sick." I agreed without a second thought. Her return would be good for everyone. That Friday, I announced she would be the chairwoman of our new foundation. I also introduced a new employee welfare plan focusing on mental health and family support. After, a senior VP cornered me. "CEO, these policies are incredible, but the cost will be huge. The shareholders might—" I smiled gently. "How long have you been here?" 25 years, he answered. "Then you'll remember the motto my father built this company on. The company is a family. We're just returning to our roots," I said firmly. "If any shareholder has a problem, send them directly to me." Ultimately, those policies boosted loyalty so much that our stock continued to climb. A month later, I got a notice from the court. My uncle Julian was appealing his sentence from prison. He'd also sent me a letter. My hand trembled as I opened it. The writing was clean, precise. "Niece Beatrix," it began. "You probably hate the very sight of my name. I'm not writing to make excuses. I just need to tell you a few truths. I hated your father, but my feelings for you were complicated. You have his iron will, but your mother's kind heart. That day, you could have let me die. Instead of shooting me, you shot the rope. Hate blinded me to everything else. Now it's over. I have one last thing to tell you. Be careful of a group called Capital Orion. They are not some simple investment firm. There's a much bigger power behind them. I was just a pawn. My arrest won't stop them from coming after you. Farewell." A chill went straight through me. If Julian was just a pawn, who was the real player? I called security immediately. "George, I need a full, deep-dive investigation into Capital Orion. Now." The initial report was a maze of shell companies leading to a faceless international consortium with no obvious grudge against us. "We have to go deeper," George said, his face grave. "If an enemy like this exists, we're standing in the light while they're moving in the shadows. It's incredibly dangerous." I thought for a moment. Keep the investigation quiet and double security around our top people and our research labs. On the surface, the following days were peaceful, but I felt the storm brewing. While running the company, I kept a close watch on the investigation. Mom, meanwhile, came alive in her new role. Her foundation's first project, supporting female entrepreneurs, was a huge success. Dad's health was improving too. He started weighing in on big decisions from home. One weekend during our first family dinner in ages, he said, "Beatrix, I'm thinking of officially retiring. I want you to take over as chairman." I nearly dropped my chopsticks. "Dad, you're still young," my mother said gently. "He wants to spend more time with me." She smiled. "The doctor says it's good for my recovery." Dad nodded. "And you've more than proven yourself. It's time for the next generation to lead." I couldn't sleep a wink that night. Taking over wasn't just an honor, it was a crushing responsibility. And with some unknown enemy lurking out there, could I really handle it? In the early morning light, I sat in my office reading the company's history. From a small factory, we'd survived wars, recessions, and betrayals, always finding a way back. Suddenly, I understood. Our true strength wasn't our money or our power. It was our resilience. That Monday, I told my father yes. The news went public to a mostly positive response. And that's when the enemy finally showed its face. Tuesday morning, we were hit with a devastating cyber attack. Our entire network was paralyzed, and we were facing a massive data breach. At the same time, regulators in several countries launched baseless investigations into our projects. Our stock plummeted. "This isn't a normal hack," our security chief reported. "This is state level." I activated our emergency plan. I knew in my gut this was Capital Orion. In the crisis meeting, you could feel the panic in the room. Some executives wanted to pull back, to abandon our overseas projects. After hearing everyone out, I made my decision. First, we restore our systems and triple our defenses. Second, we cooperate completely with every investigation. Third, we do not retreat 1 inch. We move forward with our expansion as planned. Several board members protested. "It's too risky." "This company has never grown by playing defense," I answered calmly. "When you're facing a fire, the only way is forward." For the next week, I lived at the office. My mother brought me food every day, and my father acted as my remote advisor. Our employees rallied, their morale unbreakable. After a brutal week, our systems were fully restored, and the investigations fizzled out. Our stock didn't just bounce back, it shot up higher than ever before. After the crisis passed, I sent a letter to every employee. "This attack hurt us, but it made us stronger. We will not bow to any threat. We will move forward together." At my inauguration ceremony, my father handed me the official company seal. "You are braver and wiser than I am," he whispered. "I can finally rest easy." I took the seal, and before the media and all our people, I made my vow. I will lead not as a conqueror, but as a guardian. Our goal is not just success, but shared value. Through the applause, I saw my mother smiling through her tears and my father's look of pure pride. Later, in the chairman's office, I admired a new family photo on my desk, the 3 of us smiling. George knocked on the door. "Madam Chairman, you have a visitor. She says she's a friend." I looked up to see my sister Laura walking in with a man I'd never met. "B, this is my fiancé. He's a cybersecurity expert. He helped us a lot during the attack, in secret." "I wasn't hiding him," Laura rushed to explain. "We just found our way back to each other in all this chaos, and it turns out this is his specialty." The man stepped forward and extended his hand. "Chairman Hayes, I've heard a great deal about you. In fact, I may know something about the people who attacked your company." "I think I can help," a voice said. I looked up. He explained a group codenamed Orion, an international network of corporate spies targeting companies just like mine. "They're backed by a mysterious source," he warned. "And this isn't just about business, it's political." A chill went down my spine as I remembered Julian's vague threats. "Why would you help us?" I asked, my voice steady. The man glanced at Laura, then back at me. "For one, Laura asked me to. For another, Orion ruined my father. He lost his company, then his life. This is personal." And just like that, fate had given us a common enemy. I hired him on the spot as a security consultant to tear down and rebuild our entire defense system. Later, alone in my office, staring out at the city, I felt a calm I hadn't felt in months. The enemy was out there, but so was I, and I wasn't afraid. My phone rang. It was Mom. "Beatrice, honey, are you eating? Are you resting?" "No matter what, we're always here for you." Her words were a warm embrace. "I know, Mom. Let's go to that new art museum this weekend." After we hung up, I looked out at the skyline. There were shadows, yes, but the lights burned so much brighter. I opened my planner. Tomorrow was a wall of meetings, new product lines, a town hall, a charity signing. At the bottom of the page, I wrote a note to myself: start the memoir. It wasn't for fame. It was to tell the story of how a daughter became the guardian of a legacy, and how a family broken by a storm slowly began to heal. As the sun began to rise, a new day was breaking, and I, Beatrice Hayes, chairman of the Hayes Corporation, was ready for it, ready for all of it.